Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we have lined up for you. 7 Canadians arrested and extradited to the U.S. in a drug trafficking investigation involving a former Canadian Olympian. Plus, the Better Business Bureau amplifies its warning of scams targeting holiday shoppers this season. And U.S. President Donald Trump says he will sign a bill releasing the Epstein files after the Senate moves the bill to the executive branch.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks for joining us. 7 Canadians have been arrested and extradited to the United States in connection with a massive drug trafficking investigation involving former Canadian Olympian Ryan Wedding. RCMP Commissioner Michael Duhaime joined U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and other American officials in Washington today to announce those charges. Duhaime says Canadians in Quebec, Ontario, and Alberta were taken into custody this week.
Yesterday morning, the RCMP and Ontario Provincial Police proceeded by arresting 7 Canadians with ties to the Wedding organized crime group. I want to emphasize that our work is not done. Fugitive Ryan Wedding remains one of the top threats to Canadian public safety, and as per the previous indictment, continues to run an over $1 billion a year criminal enterprise.
His organization is responsible for importing approximately 60 metric tons of cocaine a year into Los Angeles via semi-trucks from Mexico. To put that in perspective, 60 metric tons is approximately the weight of 40 standard cars.
The federal ombudsperson for victims of crime is calling for reforms to improve how survivors of sexual violence are treated by the criminal justice system. Benjamin Roebuck says too many survivors describe their experiences with the justice system as more harmful than the assault itself.
Too many survivors told us that when they came forward, they were disbelieved, re-traumatized, and further harmed. We engaged with nearly 3,000 people across Canada, survivors, service providers, police, Crown attorneys, defense counsel, judges, and community leaders. We reviewed academic research and more than 750 court cases and 300 media articles. The message was clear. Survivors are silenced by myths and stereotypes that persist in courtrooms and police stations. They're re-traumatized by invasive cross-examinations and the threat of having their therapy records exposed. They feel abandoned when cases are stayed under R.V. Jordan, leaving them without justice after years of waiting. One survivor told us, "I don't think there's anything worse for a victim than to have a trial stayed." Behind every statistic is a person, a life interrupted, families and communities affected. Survivors describe feeling like evidence and not human beings.
Among the 43 recommendations within the report is the need to fully investigate allegations of sexual violence that are reported to police. It also recommends providing specific training to police and courts on the unique needs of sexual assault survivors based on sex, gender, age, immigration status, income, race, culture, religion, and mental health. Prime Minister Mark Carney is in the United Arab Emirates trying to drum up investment from sovereign wealth funds to help diversify Canada's economy. But as Carney visits the UAE, is coming under scrutiny from the United Nations. We get more on this from Dylan Robertson with the Canadian Press.
The visit is coming at a time where there's been a lot of concerns about the UAE having a role in the civil war in Sudan. The UAE government says that it's trying to build peace and that it's not supporting either side, but a UN panel of experts and numerous humanitarian groups have said that UAE is funding the Rapid Support Forces, which is a paramilitary group that the Biden administration had accused of doing a genocide in Darfur. So the visit comes at a pretty consequential time for Canada, both in terms of looking for investments to withstand the blow economically from these U.S. tariffs, while also trying to carve out more of a role for Canada in things like major projects.
After the visit to the United Arab Emirates, the Prime Minister will head to Johannesburg, South Africa for the G20 summit, that is. U.S. President Donald Trump will not be attending. Trump has said that no U.S. official would attend following his controversial claim that white farmers are being persecuted in South Africa. And speaking of the U.S. president, Trump says he's willing to sign a bill releasing the Epstein files. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to release the files, and the Senate agreed to pass the bill to Trump to sign. Not too long ago, Trump was dismissing the uproar over his government's handling of the Epstein case, calling it a Democratic hoax. We asked Foreign Affairs correspondent Lisa Daftari what has changed and if she thinks the files will be redacted.
Look, the accusation against the Trump administration was that there was a lot of hypocrisy, and if they are the administration that is touting themselves on being transparent, then why weren't they transparent? And on the part of the Trump administration, they really do maintain that this is nothing. And by coming out and saying, we're not going to release it because there's nothing and there's no list, they, I think, were assuming it would just go away and the American people would take that at face value and move on. So the fact that it did go through Congress, that it is still on people's minds, that people just keep bringing it up over and over again, I think that's a reason to resurface.
You can catch that full interview with Lisa Daftari coming up right after Business News. Last year in Canada, over $1 billion in insurance claims were filed in relation to auto thefts, and the Équité Association, which researches insurance fraud and crime, has released its report on the most stolen vehicles across the country in 2024. Turns out the Toyota RAV4 is in first place. Équité says SUVs like the RAV4 are often targeted in Ontario and Quebec for their keyless security vulnerabilities in newer models. The Dodge Ram 1500 series is right behind. It's the most stolen truck in Canada and the most stolen most stolen vehicle overall in Alberta and Atlantic Canada. Other models of Honda and Toyota and Ram 1500 trucks were also targeted, with most models produced in the last 5 years. There is some good news, though. Auto theft rates in our country continue to decrease exponentially. In the first half of 2025, there's been a 19.1% national decrease in theft of private passenger vehicles compared to the same period in 2024. Équité President Terry O'Brien adds in the statement that Canada is a safer place today than it was at the height of the auto theft crisis, and that levels have returned to pre-crisis levels. The Alberta NDP has come out with a strong rebuke of the UCP government's use of the notwithstanding clause to shield 3 transgender-related bills from court challenges. On Tuesday, Premier Danielle Smith's government tabled Bill 9, the Protecting Alberta's Children's Statuses Amendment Act, which proposes changes to 3 pieces of legislation passed last year. Those laws require parental consent for students changing their names or pronouns in schools and prohibits gender surgery for minors and prevents youth under the age of 16 from accessing puberty-blocking medication or hormone therapy treatment for the purposes of gender reassignment. It also bans transgender girls from participating in amateur female sports. NDP leader Naheed Nenshi responds.
It's disgusting. We've had a premier who has pretended through her long career that she believes in people's fundamental human rights. And anytime those human rights are inconvenienced or with a group that she deems unpopular out of the mainstream, whether it's teachers, workers, and now vulnerable trans kids, she's willing to give up those rights. Albertans deserve so much better than that.
Every Canadian should be outraged by this. The notwithstanding clause was never intended to be a tool for governments to override rights simply because they know they will lose in court. In Canada, we value the balance between our political and judicial systems. Both are pillars of our democracy. If we allow this to continue, nobody's rights are safe. Yesterday it was teachers. Today it's trans youth and all trans people. Tomorrow it could be women's health, reproductive rights, racial minorities, or anyone that doesn't fit the government's ideology.
LGBTQ plus group Egal Canada calls the move chilling, saying it's the first time in Canadian history the notwithstanding clause has been used to limit access to health care. Calgary's new city council has voted down a motion to ban the raising of national flags at City Hall. The motion put forward Tuesday by Ward 13 Councillor Dan McLean was defeated by a vote of 8-7. It follows the raising of the Palestinian flag this week. Under Calgary's previous council, a Palestinian flag raising was approved for November 30th, but was later changed to November 15th, the date of the Palestinian Declaration of Independence, to align with city policy. Evan Spencer served on the previous council and outlines how the original decision was made.
It was an administrative step done in conjunction with a larger policy to fly, to increase a sense of community pride in the diversity of the city and all the people that make up a metropolitan city like Calgary. When you have the political fervor and tension around particular conflicts in our globe, like Palestine, Israel, when those two flags fly, that's why, and that's what I believe Mayor Farkas was trying to address. But when you wait till one particular flag is about to fly, make it an urgent notice of motion, I have empathy for the other perspectives on council. I would encourage them to bring it back later after this moment has passed, when it's not about maybe particular one flag flying at City Hall, and take the slow, long conversation. That's what my understanding. I'm listening to Councillor Wyness. Some of her comments, I find myself leaning in her direction, going like, hey, we can do this better. We can have a better long form conversation. We don't necessarily need to jump on this right in this moment.
Councillor McLean says he plans to bring the motion forward to Council's executive committee, but he did not confirm when. A 22-year-old man from Coaldale, Alberta is dead after a multi-vehicle crash Tuesday afternoon near Brooks. Just after 5 o'clock, police and fire crews responded to reports of a crash at the intersection of Highway 36 and Highway 873, about 26 kilometers southwest of Brooks. Police say 3 vehicles were involved, each with only one occupant. Police say a westbound van failed to stop at the intersection and slammed into the trailer of a northbound semi. A southbound SUV collided with the trailer. Police say the driver of the van was killed. His name has not been released. The woman driving the SUV had to be extricated from the vehicle and was taken to hospital in stable condition. The driver of the semi was uninjured. Traffic was detoured around the scene for about 5 hours while RCMP investigated the crash. The Better Business Bureau is amplifying a warning from the head of BMO's Financial Crimes Unit regarding a multitude of scams that are targeting holiday shoppers this season. The various scams include the use of fake retailer websites, using artificial intelligence to push deep fake videos that impersonate brands and influencers. Additionally, QR codes with malicious links are a method that has become extremely widespread and may be hard to detect if they appear on display in public settings. Wes LaFortune of the BBB says older consumers are more susceptible to these scams, particularly ones using AI.
What we're seeing now more and more is very sophisticated videos that are spoofing well-known figures. This could be news media figures. I know the Prime Minister has been spoofed before, the former Prime Minister, a lot of different people. So they create these videos, and often these are tied to investment scams. The person is endorsing or seemingly endorsing the investment, but of course, it's all fake. AI is becoming more and more sophisticated, believable. It looks real. It looks like the real people. It's hard to tell. And you know what we're guiding people is, if you can't tell, then assume it's a fake. Look for the HTTPS, and in the S in that equation means secure, and that goes a very long way to providing some assurance that this is a legitimate website. Holiday period is very busy for retailers and online, websites. People are making many, many millions of dollars of purchases in Canada. Fraudsters are opportunists, and they are taking advantage of the activity. And so that's why it's increased activity at this time of year.
LaFortune also warns the risk of skimming, where fraudsters insert devices in public ATMs to steal funds from the user's card, and digital pickpocketing, where fraudsters use devices in typically public crowds to steal money from people's digital wallets from their phones. If you're in Lethbridge this holiday season, you might notice a transit bus decked out in Christmas lights and decorations. Well, Lethbridge Transit, alongside multiple community partners, are bringing back the holiday bus to collect donations for the Christmas Hope campaign. The bus will make its first stop this Thursday evening at the downtown Lethbridge BRZ Christmas tree lighting at Festival Square. Visitors can bring non-perishable food items and unwrapped new toys that will go to families in need this season.
Year one was great. From what was estimated, about 1,500 were collected in food and donations. So it was a great start, especially it was kind of on the fly last year, where this year we took a little bit more preparation, and we're really trying to roll out to the fullest of our ability this year. So we're very optimistic for it.
Not only does it raise funds and food and toys for our Christmas Hope campaign, but it is a spectacle. It is something that really draws people's eyes to the festivity of the season, but also to the need to support others. And so having the bus at so many good community events, city locations, it is really a great opportunity for us to get the word out on top of raising the supports that we need to help local families.
You can find out where the bus will stop in Lethbridge for the next month at christmashope.ca. Nothing says Christmas spirit like a decked out bus. Love it. I wonder how they keep the tree secure during those starts and stops. In sports, the Professional Women's Hockey League kicks off its third season this weekend with the Montreal Victoire taking on the Boston Fleet on Sunday. The league is growing in popularity and will get an even higher profile this season, with 30 games being broadcast on Rogers Sportsnet and Sportsnet Plus. The veteran players in the PWHL say playing hockey for a living has pushed them out of their comfort zones late in their hockey careers. The pressure to win is no longer confined to the Olympic Games, World Championships, and a handful of international games each winter.
PWHL, just knowing how hard it is to play this league, I think to me as a player, it does make me better, because I know I have to be ready day in and day out. Like, it's hard physically, mentally, you have to be ready to go. If not, you're getting smoke in the board, you're getting hit. Also as a player, as an individual, it just makes you realize, what can I do to be successful in this league? Like, how do I prepare? How do I eat? How do I discipline myself? How do I get ready to go?
For so long, I was an Olympic athlete, so I was at, the top of I am an Olympic athlete. I'm at the top of my game. I'm one of the best players in our country, the best players in the world. But hockey still felt like a hobby prior to the PWHL, and now, like, just with the travel, with games, with practices, with the pressures of the media, with the pressures of the fan bases that we've been able to establish, like, it's all good, but it changes the way that you really view the game, and it really does become a job.
Most Canadian businesses recently polled are using artificial intelligence in some form, but only a small fraction are seeing any return on their investments so far. KPMG Canada says its online survey of roughly 750 business leaders across the country found that 93% said their organizations are using AI, up from 61% last year. However, only 31% have fully integrated AI in their operations. 2% of respondents said their organizations are seeing a return on their generative AI investments. Ford Motor Company is recalling more than 200,000 Bronco and Bronco Sport vehicles because an instrument panel can fail, increasing the risk of a crash. Federal auto safety regulators in the U.S. said that the instrument panel may not display at startup, leaving the driver without critical safety information. The recall includes over 128,000 Ford Bronco Sports model years 2025 and 2026, and about 100,000 Ford Broncos also modeled the same years, they're 2025 to 26. Ford is not aware of any injuries caused by the instrument panel failure. The most valuable pieces in the Hudson's Bay art collection were scheduled to hit the auction block today. Heffel Fine Art Auction House hosted the live sale, finding new homes for 27 paintings owned by the Shuttered department store. The star of the auction was an oil-on-canvas painting of Marrakesh by former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, estimated to be worth between $400,000 and $600,000. Other highlights included a Frederick Marlett Bell Smith painting of pedestrians on a rainy Toronto street and two early 19th century pieces from William von Molberzy, one of the founders of Toronto. Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 241 to 30,278. The Dow was up 47 to 46,138. The S&P 500 was up 24 to 6,642, and the Nasdaq was up 131 to 22,564. West Texas Intermediate oil was down $1.67 to $59.57 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 19 cents to $4.56 US. Gold was up $10.62 to $40.7784 US an ounce, and silver was up 64 cents to $51.34 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.46 per bushel, barley is at $5.83, canola is at $14.73, and corn is at $7.39 per bushel. Live cattle December contract was down $3.72 to $2.1630. Feeder cattle were up $1.07 to $3.4185. And lean hogs December contract was up 95 cents to 78.85. And the Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 71.20 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, U.S. and Canadian authorities are on the hunt for former Canadian Olympian Ryan Wedding. The former Olympic snowboarder is on the FBI's most wanted list for allegedly bringing large amounts of cocaine into the U.S. and Canada. And new charges announced today allege he was involved in the murder of a U.S. federal witness in Colombia this year. Wedding is believed to be hiding in Mexico, and the reward for information leading to his arrest has gone up to $15 million U.S. So much taking place in international news. The U.S. Senate has unanimously passed a bill for the release of the Epstein files. Teams in Nigeria are searching for 25 girls who have been kidnapped from a boarding school, and President Trump has given the go-ahead to the CIA to carry out covert ops in Venezuela after declaring President Maduro a terrorist. Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari will give us the scoop on these and other major stories making headlines coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews.